No games, no gimmicks, just God. Hello, family. You guys are so amazing. I want to say thank you for all of your likes, your shares, and your comments. It's because of you that we're able to fulfill our mission, and that's to empower the world to never give up. Listen, I have some of the most amazing women preachers in the 757. I want to tell you this. You need to get a pen and a piece of paper and take some notes. This is going to be one iconic interview. It's going to blow your socks away. Tune in right now.
My name is Reverend Amanda. I serve at Shiloh Baptist Church in Norfolk, Virginia, where Keith Allen Jones is the senior pastor. Been serving there for the past 6 years, and I'm so glad to be with y'all today. Okay, Reverend Doctor. My name is Reverend Nicole Guns Edwards, and I'm at 2nd Calvary Baptist Church, where I have been for the past 38 years. And because I'm a PK, I do everything. God bless you.
Love it.
Awesome. My name is Reverend Erica Calicut, also go by Reverend Callie, and I serve as the youth pastor at Ivy Baptist Church in Newport News with Pastor Kevin Swan, where I have been for 2.5 years now.
Love it.
I am Reverend Sharice Parker Freeman. I serve as an associate minister of worship and fine arts at New Calvary Baptist Church, where my pastor is none other than Dr. William Marcus Small. I work with women's ministry, youth ministry, praise and worship. So I do a little number of everything.
I love it. I love it. So let's go ahead and dive deep. The COVID-19 has really had an impact, especially in ministries, youth ministry as well, right? I'm a youth pastor here, New Orleans and Elam Baptist Church, and one thing, it was difficult getting the youth out here in the beginning, right? Mm-hmm. But now that the COVID-19 has taken over, you definitely have to call your youth. What are you ladies doing to stay connected to your youth and also to your church members?
I know what I've started doing really wasn't anything different than what I've had already been doing, was individual text messages. You can do group text, but to individually text them by name really makes the difference, and they tend to respond more versus a group text. They'll see it. If you just want to get a general message out there, you might get a like or a love on a message. But mostly, I think what's been most impactful is texting them, checking on them, not just when it's time to, get on Zoom or get online to, view something, but say, how's your week going? How are you coping with, not being able to graduate, not being able to see your friends? Because we realized it was an abrupt change to their social lives. And so I have a lot of, youth that struggle with anxiety. And so I can't imagine what that's like being at home now without having, that structure or coping skills to be able to navigate this time. And so just really doing those individual check-ins, FaceTimes, when they let me, because, sometimes they say, Reverend Callie, I'm not fresh or something like that. So, but just, I try not to be worrisome. I try not to, bombard them, but just got to do more to stay connected.
I love it. I love it. Reverend Sharice?
Well, one of the things that we've been doing with our youth is, again, staying connected, texting, just being really engaged with them on social media, Facebook, Instagram. A lot of them really not on Facebook, but, by any means necessary, just trying to connect with them and encouraging them. Still applying for scholarships. If there's information out there on scholarships, sending that information out. Just yesterday, someone hosted a virtual college tour. And so, and so there were about 12 colleges. And so just kind of saying, we may not be actually hosting it here in our area, but here's this information, getting that information out to them, and just, staying connected. It's, we underestimate often the feelings that our young people deal with. We're thinking, oh, you're young, you don't have to worry about anything, life is good for you, you got a roof over your head. But no, they're dealing with anxiety and depression and other things as well. And so we got to make sure we check on them. My youngest brother, who is 30, and he works at a college up in D.C., but he called me Friday, and he wasn't feeling well. And I said, you need to get to the ER. And I honestly broke down in tears, not because I was afraid of COVID-19, but more so of how he was going to be treated as a black male. And so we still have to, be mindful of our youth and how they're going
Yes.
out and interacting with people with their mask on.
Yes.
You know, and these implicit biases
Yes.
that, you know, just because you have on your mask, because the governor said to have on your mask. So we still got to, you know, keep in mind that we still have to protect our kids while they're out there, our young guys, you know, young boys walking the street, especially here in Norfolk, you know, just playing. But that they can be profiled. And so we want to make sure we're engaging and staying in contact with them as much as possible.
Wow, never thought about that. You know, because not too long ago, the Walmart in Janif was robbed. He had a mask on, and it's not uncommon for people to have masks on during this season, right? So he walked in and had a note and said, listen, give me everything you got in the register, and walk right on out. Never thought about it. That was a great concept.
Similar to what Erica and Sharice was just saying, just connecting, texting, communicating with the parents, making sure the parents are okay as they're navigating through this new norm or temporary norm. One of the things I was just sharing with the ladies earlier, that we had mind practice via Zoom yesterday.
Wow.
And the kids were excited and they're looking forward to how that's going to come together. So they still want to do ministry. They still want to be connected to what we've been accustomed to, and how they are growing in that. That's part of their faith walk, how they're learning about Christ through miming and through dancing and those types of things, and they still want to do it. So just creating those opportunities for them to be able to continue to stay connected to God and find their faith and grow in their faith, even as we are social distancing.
Absolutely.
So just creating those opportunities.
I love it. Reverend Nicole?
I definitely have nothing to add to everything that they have said. No, but I think they all brought up very good points, and I agree. You know, we've really just been dealing with the anxiety. It's just been so major. We often think about adults that have been furloughed, but as Sharice said, you know, suddenly their social network was just cut off.
Wow.
You know, so if I was a young person who was about to do spring sports, there are no spring sports. There is no prom. There is no graduation. You know, if I was getting ready for college, that's the end of college tours. And so just really not taking lightly their emotions and their feelings through this.
So I understand that some of you ladies are in the medical field. What have you been seeing out there? You know, because I just want to break the ice, because so many people will use this scripture. God has not given us a spirit of fear. And I totally agree. However, I was talking to my best friend. He cracked a joke. He said, God has not given me the spirit of fear, but coronavirus has given me the spirit of fear. But, you know, so how do you navigate through this uncertain times now? Like, what are you seeing out there?
Okay. Well, as a nurse, I dealt with fear and anxiety when it first started. God has really eased that for me. But I was very fearful and very anxious because, as you all know, we don't have the equipment that we need to be safe. You know, so for 15 years of my career, I'm told this is the mask, use it one time, use these gloves one time, and now suddenly I don't need that mask anymore, and I'm dealing with something that's highly contagious. So the fear of having it and not knowing I have it, the fear of spreading it to other people, the fear of spreading it to other patients, the fear of spreading it to my 93-year-old grandfather, the fear of spreading it to my 70-year-old father who just recovered from cancer a couple of months ago. So I really dealt with a lot of anxiety and a lot of fear. And now I'm getting to a place where I've really had to activate my faith, not be stupid, not be, you know, not be crazy, but just not operate from a space of fear.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with what she just shared. Serving as a chaplain in a level 1 trauma center, I have definitely sensed the fear and the panic amongst, from doctors to nurses to care coordinators, and there's this level of fear that is so obvious, that is amongst everyone, and the nurses, you know, that continue to go in the rooms are fearful, and you know what's coming from leadership, that they have to continue as if, you know, this isn't happening. And so to be able to gather my emotions and feelings first, because yes, I think my human reaction was fear and panic, like, oh my goodness, I'm going into a hospital day after day. And, you know, your same fears about not wanting to, you know, bring that home to your family. Now, I don't live with my family, but I've made the conscious decision not to go and see them during this season. My 80-year-old grandfather who's diabetic, my sister who has asthma, my mom who has underlying health conditions. And so we have to now operate with now this new sense of responsibility.
Yeah.
And I think that has subsided as the longer we stay in it. People are starting to lose sight that it is still very, you know, rampant right now.
It is.
I think it's just, as Virginia is concerned, the cases have not decreased.
Right.
And so in the hospital, I see it differently.
Right.
Because I do see it. I do walk past rooms that say COVID-19.
Wow.
And it's not just those that are under a specific age.
Right.
It is very wide ranging as far as age and demographics. And so to come alongside of those nurses and to encourage them and to check in with them, because we know that nurses and doctors operate in autopilot sometimes. And so to do that emotional, spiritual check-in with them, say, hey, how are you doing?
Yeah.
And for chaplains, you know, we've even had to adapt how we're doing ministry right now, because it's no longer, you know, going into the rooms. We
Right.
might have to stand in the doorway. We might have to do telehealth, making our, you know, phone numbers and being available after hours for nurses and families. It's been very eye-opening.
Yeah.
To also sit with families who cannot be with their loved ones.
Right.
And to know that, you know, that they have to sit with that shame or that feeling of not having closure. It's very eye-opening. And so when I leave the hospital and come back into the real world and see people, you know, laughing and joking, and because, you know, we see the memes and everything on the internet just for laughter, but it's very sad and it makes it very real.
Go ahead. I think one thing in this season, this moment, I want you to say that, but one thing in this season, I believe that it's going to show and expose who's really called. Because if you don't have, to be a minister, to be a preacher, to be called, you have to have a heart for people. And if you don't have a heart for people, it's going to show during this season. Go ahead.
Yeah. To add to what Erica was saying, I also went through a period of anger because I'm seeing people going to Burger King with an N95 mask on the wrong way. And I'm like, nurses are dying in New York because they don't have that mask.
Yeah.
And so I had to deal with all of that because people are trying to protect themselves. I had to find that balance of anger, frustration, fear, just all
Every
the
day.
anxiety. Yeah.
Wow.
Every day you have to readjust and do your own kind of mental, emotional check-in with yourself. And because if not, fear is contagious.
Yeah, it is.
You know, and I had to kind of check myself and not allow the fear of, you know, my colleagues kind of interrupt where I built myself to stand. And then just that quickly, someone else's fear and panic can easily distract you.
And that's why it's so important. I tell my parishioners, my youth, and I was blessed to be able to preach the Sunday before they said that no more gatherings. So I had the opportunity to preach. So what I was sharing with them was sometimes we need to turn off CNN.
Amen.
Sometimes we need to turn off Facebook and YouTube and
That's right.
you know, and really seek what is God saying in this moment. Because what happens is, I was reading an article and they said that it's not so much as COVID-19 is giving people symptoms or killing people, it's that they're fearful that their immune system is breaking down now. Fear equals immune system breaking down. So let me ask the question. How are you doing ministry now? How is it affecting you now? Because I'm a hugger and I'm an embracer. I love people. That's just me. I just love people. I love, you know, being in people's space. Like, what's going on? You good? That's me. That's my personality. So how are you all dealing with ministry? Not being able to come to and grab your neighbor by the hand.
I think this is, it's not a great time. We're in very unprecedented times. But I think it's a great time for the church to reassess and reexamine how we do ministry. That ministry is not contained to the four walls. Now, a lot of pastors have gotten a lot of flack for wanting to have service. I think sometimes we can miss the bigger picture that some people need that connection. So for the mother who is 85, who lives by herself and is the cat, and you know, she needs that connection on a Sunday morning. And so there are pastors and leaders who understand that. And so here at my church, in Calvary, I think we've been intentional about reaching out to our seniors, creating a program where if they need something, they can call us. Hey, somebody can run and get toilet paper, somebody can go get canned goods or whatever they need, because they're often a demographic that they need the resources. You know, they need the food bank. We do a lot of food bank ministry at our church, but now we can't. And so what does that look like? And so for those of us who are mobile and able, we put our mask on, our gloves on, and, you know, and hit the streets. And so it's causing the church to really look at how we do ministry outside of this.
Outside of four
and
walls.
if you're in a place where you can only do ministry at your church,
Yeah, that's not ministry.
it's not
Right,
ministry.
right.
And I think at that point,
That's
you're
right.
limiting the power of God.
Yes.
You know, how do we do ministry creatively?
Yeah.
Right.
You know, at this point, I was talking to a friend the other day. At this point, there's no right or wrong. It really isn't.
No blueprint.
There's
No blueprint at all.
Nothing prepared us for this. It happened overnight.
Yes.
You know, and it was like you got to get your team together if you didn't already have an emergency preparedness team. And so now churches, we have to look at going forward, moving into the future. What teams do we need to have in place?
Right.
We need to have an emergency preparedness team. We need the chaplain. We need the nurse. We need an interdisciplinary approach
Right.
to how we do ministry.
Right.
We need the teacher to
Right.
say, how can we make sure our kids are getting tutoring services while they're out of school? Because a lot of parents can't help their children with homework.
Right.
A lot of kids are at home not because they don't have access to the work, to the laptop, to the computer, but because they're distracted.
Right.
You know, there are a lot of distractions at home.
A lot of distractions.
You know, your mom's yelling or whatever's going on all day. And so, again, how does the church do ministry? How do you do it creatively?
Right.
So you may do the mime, you know, on a Zoom. You may have your youth do a TikTok. You know, reach out to your older people. I mean, whatever it takes. Erica did a TikTok a couple weeks ago, and it
Went
was
viral.
hilarious. It was hilarious. I mean, absolutely. I mean, I watched it at least 5 times. I was like, I can't believe Erica is doing a TikTok.
Me either.
But this season is making you step out of your box. Like, I'm not used to this, but I got to do it.
Creative ministry. I realized a lot of my students, that's the wave for them right now. Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah.
And so it pulled me out of my comfort zone. And to, you know, when you said creative ministry, a lot of churches now are forced to look at ministry beyond the pulpit.
Yes.
How is your congregational care ministry, your pastoral care ministry? And for me, it's been able to reinforce how important it is to stay connected beyond Sunday.
Right.
You know, ministry just can't stop on Sunday morning or Wednesday or Tuesday after Bible study. And so, you know, for me, it's pulled me out of my, you know, introvertedness. Because when all of this happened, honestly, you know, just speaking candidly, I was okay with not going out or things being canceled, because as an introvert, you're like, first of all,
I'd rather be
thank
by
God.
myself.
I'm struggling.
So I've been okay with it.
I'm struggling big time myself. But I got to ask you, what made you do the Zoom? Because it's a different approach.
Yeah.
What made you say, listen, we're going on Zoom doing the mime. We have to.
I know it was definitely God. I
Yeah.
know it was the Spirit, because it just came out of nowhere, you know. Because I use Zoom just to have meetings,
Right.
you know, have Bible studies and things like that. But I was just like, well, we can use this for a rehearsal.
Right.
And send the link out, and the kids were just like, yes, Rev, let's do it. I think their response of, yes, I'm in, let's do it.
Yeah.
And even the opportunity for them to be creative in their homes. Use, you know, props in their home as they mime, and to record that and to just bring it all together. Like I said, when you see their anointing, and young people are just so creative.
Yes.
I mean, they blow my mind
Yes.
all the time. So if you create those opportunities for them to just, okay, well, let's try this, just try this, and then they see this and grow in God in it, then you never know what's going to happen down the road when God continues to use them for something. So I know it was God's Spirit to say, let's try Zoom. And one of my young people, he just turned 13, 7th grader. He's great with technology. He has his own his own YouTube page.
Wow.
And he's got backdrops, the green room, all kinds of stuff, and he's just popping from room to room, and just he's doing a little bit of comedy, but creative, what young people do.
Right.
But I'm like, that's his gift.
Yeah.
And he does it so easily, and he's only 13.
Wow.
And he's been doing it for a while.
Wow.
I just learned that he was doing it. So tapping into those things that young people are able to do, and then as you identify those things, okay, when we come back together, we're back in the house of God, worshiping together like before, even better than before. Are you going to use the creativity that you've just been exposed to in your worship and in your studying and your working in the community? How are you going to use the new ideas, the new things that are developing even now into mission work or ministry work? And so that's the challenge now. That's where we're all, the church the blueprint. We're putting the blueprint together. Where are we going to go from here?
Right.
When we come back together, to be able to worship and be
Can't.
together again.
It'll never be the same
won't.
again.
I don't want it to be honest. I don't want to go back to church being the same. Or, you know, we don't have to be in church Monday through Sunday. I would greatly appreciate it. Now that we know we have Zoom and WebEx.
And we can do practice on Zoom. We can rehearsal.
Bible
Spoken like introvert. I want to call.
I need to be in the sanctuary. Me. I need to be there.
Listen, I know. But I mean, I love the community.
Yes.
Right. You know, that sense of community coming in.
Like, cut it
You
off.
know, I love it. I love to see what people have on.
Yes.
I love to hear somebody else, you know, say,
Right.
I went to the doctor, girl, and the report came back. And that's not my testimony.
And the
but I
praise
just
that's in the
praise God.
building.
Exactly. I love it. And then listen, I worship at home. I worship in my dining room, in my car. I do all that.
But it's something about worshiping together.
Yes.
I love it. I love it.
Absolutely.
I'm excited to preach next Sunday, you know, with nobody in the sanctuary other than the pictures, but I just love people. But I got to transition to Nicole. How do you think that this is going to affect us moving forward? Because I know the conversation that we had before everybody got together was, I don't think people are going to come back to the sanctuary. The first Sunday, it's going to be pandemonium.
Yeah.
Listen, you're going to have to turn off the electricity for the praise break to stop when people come back. You know, because I can hear the first testimony.
Right.
Won't he do it? Didn't God keep us? So I can see that happening. So
All you gotta say is early.
early. I know that you're enjoying this video, but I need you to connect with us. Our mission here at AOS Inspires is to empower the world to never give up. The message is free. It's just expensive to get it out. I need you to prayerfully connect with us. If you're giving through Cash App, it's AOS Inspires. If you're giving through PayPal, it's AOS Inspires. I promise you, your seed will be a blessing to somebody else and help us to fulfill our mission, and that's to empower the world to never give up. I want to connect with you, and thank you so much for sowing into AOS Inspires. So
E flat.
So how do you think moving forward after this pandemic is over with? Because it's going to be over with, right? So how do you think church is going to look after that first Sunday?
Okay.
Grandma Naz is able to watch it on Facebook right now.
Yeah, my granddad watches it. I don't know if he's hearing anything, but
Right.
he watches it. He's 93. He watches it. But for one, I think that people will have a greater appreciation for worship. I think one of the things that we've done on every level of the church is we've taken it for granted, you know, and I really kind of see that as how the children of Israel took the temple for granted until they couldn't go back anymore. And they say, how can we sing the Lord's song in a foreign land? So I hope, believe, and pray that we will have a better appreciation for worship, a better appreciation for our pastors, for our worship team. You know, because when we talk about essential workers in the hospital, essential workers in the church, to make sure you get that 1.5 hour on Facebook, it takes a lot behind the scenes. And as everyone has said, there's been no blueprint. It's been like, okay, that didn't work. We're going to try something different next week. So I hope and pray that there will be a greater appreciation for worship, for God, you know, for being amongst the saints. I do think that some people will not come back. You know, but it's
I think people will get lazy
for different reasons.
I think we can't, and this is one thing I was thinking about after that first Sunday, right? We can't rush people to the celebration too fast, because we also have to remember the people who are still suffering with the loss of a loved one, who may not be ready to come back and shout and praise and run around because they did not get to say goodbye to their loved one. So that's my thinking. I know for some people this has been a blessing. For others, this has been a burden.
It's been a burden.
And so how are we going to strategically care for those who, I mean, we just last Sunday, we have had members who have lost their family members, 2, 3 family members from COVID-19. And so it's like, I don't want us to be so quick to shout without being able to sit.
And that's a good point about the mental health, and I definitely want to touch back on that basis. You're talking about we're going to celebrate, but what about the people that have lost loved ones?
Grieving.
And the thing about it is, we do a video each week here, my father, my mom, and myself, just to reach out to the membership so they can see that real touch that we are affected as well, right? So my dad, we did this piece this week, how has the COVID-19 affect you mentally? And for me, mentally, you know, it's just making me think, because I'm about to have a baby tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
My wife's giving birth tomorrow, right?
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. So I'm excited.
Oh, yeah.
However, only one person can come in the room.
Right.
Yeah.
I couldn't go to no doctor's appointments. It made me feel a certain type of way. So it affected me mentally, that capacity. But my grandmother just broke both her hips. She's in a nursing home. My dad can't go and visit her. It has affected him mentally. And that. How do you deal with your mother is on her last screen and you can't visit her? But you have a congregation of people that you have to encourage. How does that look for us?
Well, I would say my responsibility is kind of twofold. So I work in healthcare, more on the administrative side, and then I do hospice chaplaincy part-time. I know for me, like when it first hit, I was grieving. My spirit was grieved for a number of different reasons. But I remember sitting in my office and something was just like COVID-19 Chronicles, and I was just writing.
Wow.
And tears were rolling down my face. My CEO came in and asked me something, and he was like, "Allergies?" I was like, "Yeah, allergies." But I was crying because I thought about the people who can't have appropriate burial for their loved ones.
Right.
You know, like your loved one is in the hospital, and only a couple of people can, you know, kind of say their, you know, final thoughts or during that transition. My girlfriend, who's 40, was diagnosed with lung cancer. Recently had surgery a couple of weeks ago. Her husband couldn't go with her, so her anxiety was on 10. You know, I'm thinking about, you know, Virginia, you got to talk about social justice. You know, you got to talk about it.
Absolutely.
I'm thinking about the people who don't receive adequate health care, who are being turned away at the door, who don't have a PCP to get the referral to go get the test. You know, and it's the upper class, black people, middle class, lower income, all of us are impacted, you know, and so my spirit was grieved. And so writing, it helped me to get it out, because in that moment I didn't have anyone to talk to. And at the conclusion of my writing, I was just like, you know what? But there is a God.
Absolutely.
A God who still heals, a God who still delivers. You know, and then I was just like, oh, be not dismayed.
Whatever betide you, God will
take care.
Yes.
Come on here.
And that's what gave me, and that's what gave me peace. You know, that's what gave me peace. And then I was reminded that the book is full of people lamenting. David was lamenting. You know, we talked about our joys and our sorrows, our ups, our downs. You know, the valley experience. I mean, all those things are in the Bible. And so then we have people who quote the scripture, you know, but God has not given us a spirit of fear. And that is true. But it is okay for me to feel sad, for me to feel angry, for me to feel whatever it is that I'm feeling. It is natural, it is human. The issue becomes is how I respond to what I'm feeling. And what do I do about that? And so knowing that I may need to go see the therapist. I may need telehealth and talk to a therapist, because I need to talk this through. What does that look like that I can't go, you know, visit someone in the nursing home that I'm used to seeing? What does that look like that for the pastor or for, you know, the deacons that normally go visit the parishioners, they can no longer do that? What does that look like? And so a lot of times people underestimate those who are in ministry that we're not feeling or whatever. What does that mean? What does that look like for the person who's lost their job? You know, or the person who has to work on the front line. Like when I tell you I was grieving for the janitor, for the bus driver, you know, for the food service worker, you know, and granted I keep eating out, you know, that has not changed.
My wife and I have us with
but I'm still thinking, they're working not because they're just like, oh, I want to, you know, be a service to mankind. They're working because they have to.
And can I just interject this? I tell everybody, I tell my wife said, she asked me a question, she said, how much are you going to give them? I said, I'm going to give them $10, you know, because they're in a place now where they have raised the pay just a little bit, but however, every money that they get, they need for bills. You don't know what they have at home. So I just want to share with everybody that's going to watch this, that's going to tune in, this is the season to sow.
Absolutely.
This is the season to sow.
And I agree with that. And just to chime in on what Sharice was just sharing, a lot of my prayer life lately has been focusing on mental health. And I've been praying for those therapists. I've been praying for those young people who are getting ready to graduate from school and this is one of the biggest things that they're probably going to have to counsel and listen to, and just keep praying for that, because that's a lot.
Yes.
How, when that's coming out, those who are listening to be able to respond and just be attentive. I'm praying for those individuals too, because I mean, everything that we're feeling, everything, you don't want to keep it inside.
Right.
You know? So even as we pray, we have people who can listen and who are professionals to be able to guide us and to walk with us as we navigate through such just a difficult time that we're experiencing. So I've been praying for those therapists. I've been praying for those counselors. I've been praying for you all who are on the front line, because it's so real. Yeah. It's so real, and it can keep you down. It can keep you down.
It's difficult.
I agree with everything. No, I do. I definitely think that the mental health piece is huge. You know, even before this, it's huge in our communities, because we just don't deal with how we're feeling about things. And I personally, you know, I have people in my family that are experiencing COVID-19 on all extremes of it. You know, we've had members of our congregation who have had family members who have died. And what's happening now is that they're not even technically diagnosing everyone with COVID-19, but people just kind of know that that's what it is. So there's some personal situations right now that we're dealing with, and then in the midst of that, trying to minister to people, you know, trying to, you know, preach or lead worship or lead your youth or whatever, and to help them to see God in this, and to help them to have hope through this in a situation that doesn't seem to have an ending. That one week it's, oh, it'll be over in April, it'll be over Easter, it'll be over May, it'll be over June 10th. Then I saw one report that said it'll be over in 2021. You know, so
and there's no concerts that's going to be held until 2021. So it's like, what do you do?
What do you do? And so I think that, as both of our chaplains here have stated, you really have to kind of check in with yourself first, because you can't pour out to anybody if you're empty and you're drained. That's a recipe for disaster. You know, and I think we've all probably have made that mistake at one point. Had I listened, had I learned, you know, I would make sure that I'm full and that I have what I need before I go out trying to minister to somebody.
Because you can't pour from an empty reservoir, and especially now, you cannot operate how you used to. You have to truly fill yourself with what is going to sustain you in a season like this. For me, you know, I feel like the weeping prophet sometimes because of the heaviness that comes on me when I walk through those hospital floors and I see patients who are alone. No family members at all. Nobody. And so no communication, nurses, everybody's gowned up, and you feel so ostracized. So it like you said, my heart grieves for a lot of what I see. And so mentally, when I come home, I have to do a TikTok video to find myself some laughter and creativity. But I've also turned my, you know, my exercise walks to prayer walks. So instead of just like putting in the headphones and drowning out the world, no headphones, just prayer, just talking, walking, and praying with God, and just allowing myself to be poured back into. I have to increase my devotional life. I don't know if you all see on the YouVersion Bible app, you know, they now have a lot of topics around anxiety, victory over depression, because a lot of people are forced to sit with themselves. We've been so fashioned of going. You know, we booked and busy and blessed. We're living our best lives.
Talk, Reverend, talk.
But now we are forced to sit with ourselves. We've been avoiding ourselves for so long. And now God is just shining the light and giving us the mirror, and we have to sit with ourselves. And it's uncomfortable for people. And, you know, it's something that, like you said, we don't do in our community. It's a taboo. However, how are we going to go out after this and pour into people, and we haven't even sat with ourselves? You can't be the wounded healer, or you're going to be the walking wounded. Bleeding over people.
Say that one more time.
You can either be the wounded healer, who's the person who has dealt with their own wounds and has found healing, or you can be the walking wounded, which means you have not even assessed your own wounds, and you're yet bleeding over the people that you're supposed to care for. Henry Nouwen,
shout out to
the wounded healer.
Henry.
It's real.
But to Reverend Callie's point, is forcing us to get back to basics.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, it is forcing us,
Foundation.
like you said, busy, booked, and blessed. I mean, I'm here on Monday, here on
Right.
Tuesday, here on Wednesday, and now I'm like, okay, I'll cook. You know, things that I wouldn't ordinarily do, binge watching.
Yeah.
You know, just doing the things that I enjoy doing, right? And so there are ways that we have to de-stress.
Yes.
We got to de-stress. And so as African Americans, we typically are quick to fix it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, our trauma response is fix it.
Right,
You know, we gotta, some kind of way, we can work it out, we can make it happen, we can rub two nickels together, and it works, right? COVID-19 is making us sit in it. Like,
And realize we don't have superpowers.
we don't
Not
have
fixing
superpowers.
this. Right.
And this is a God thing, you
Yeah.
know? Like, you know, I mean, regardless of how anointed we are, how many tongues we can speak in, this is literally
This is
up
a
to
God
God, and
thing.
we have to sit in it. We cannot fix it.
No.
We can't pay.
You
our
can't
way
run
out
away
of
from it.
We can't run
I can't
away
go to
from it.
Africa. We get away. No, it's there.
We got to sit in it.
Wow.
And while we're sitting in it, it's stressful. It's hard, you know. But finding those ways, finding the way of, you know, what is it that I enjoy?
Yeah.
You know,
Who am I?
Who am I? And what's next for me, right?
Who is this person that lives in the house with me?
Right, that part. Listen.
You have open. Listen.
Now,
They
now
said
we
that the
shifting.
rates,
Right.
the
Now-
rates of domestic violence have gone through the roof.
Listen, who is this person, right? And you know, listen, my husband can work from home technically anytime. And I have been sitting there, we've been working. I did not know that he enjoyed watching The Real. I didn't know he
There we
enjoyed
go.
watching Wendy Williams.
Wow.
I'm sitting here like, and I didn't know that he was so into The Neighborhood. I don't want to call him nosy, but I'm like, oh my gosh. He's like, he enjoys walks in the middle of the day, 1 o'clock.
Wow.
I'm thinking, this is what you've been doing?
There we go.
You know, so now I'm learning this person that I didn't know,
Wow.
you know.
Wow.
So there's a beauty in even, you know, exploring and getting to know
Yeah.
each other and connecting,
Right.
you know.
And I tell people that either two things is going to happen in relationships in this moment. Whether you're single, married, you know, two things going to happen. One or two things going to happen. Either you're going to get separated, or you're going to get stronger together.
That's right.
One or two things going to happen. Close out real fast. How would you think ministry? How would ministry look moving forward after this is said and done?
I really believe that we'll be more action people, action disciples. I think when we leave, when this whole thing is over, we get back to business, we're going to be in the community even more. We're going to be more about the teaching and more about the community and more about the relationships and more about those things that we've been preaching about and teaching about. But I think we're going to be putting our feet to the pavement and we're going to be doers of the word. I really, really sense that. I even now think that even when we hear what's going on, and we're social distancing, we're quarantining and all that kind of stuff, I think we're realizing we are equipped. We are equipped to get on the phone and pray.
Right.
We can study the word on our own.
Right.
You know, those things have that the pastors and the ministers and deacons and all them, those who have been teaching us to be able to do on our own, I think we are realizing that we have it. And so I think when we get back in this in the norm of being in churches and that aspect, I think we're really, really going to be like, you know what? It's time to work. It's time to go.
Because you can't go back.
Because you can't go back.
You can't.
You can't go back.
I seen your gift. I seen what you're good at. So you can't go back into solitude.
I think I want to piggyback off of Dr. Haynes. I think once we get back to a sense of normalcy, I think it's going to be the churches rallying to be the advocates that God has called us to be.
Yes.
Life is still going on around us.
Yes.
You know, there's still elections that are taking place.
Come on here.
There are still issues in our school system. There's still issues in our community. Our church is in the middle of a food desert. These issues are real.
Right.
And so it is no longer about just your worship service and your foot stomping and your clapping. That's good. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm a Pentecostal girl all day.
Right.
But at the end of the day, what is the church really doing in the community? how can we be the voice for the marginalized? And so COVID-19 is exposing a lot of things, and a lot of things that we already knew existed, right?
But now we see,
but
in front of our
now they
face.
see. And so there's always been a broken system. The system is the virus.
Yes.
It's always been a broken system. And so when you have a U.S. Surgeon General saying, oh, tell the black people stop smoking and stop drinking, the black Surgeon General saying that, but you're not talking about, you know, that you go to the supermarket or to the corner store and cigarettes all day long, or you're not talking about the payday loan places within a 5-mile radius of the community where people make $5,000 a year. So we're not talking about that. So it is the responsibility of the church to be the advocates for that problem, for the broken system. So do we go back to just worshiping and praising God for 2 hours and having our rainbow tea and, you know, our fish fry and doing a little something? Or do we say, nope, we're gonna be the actionary people. God is calling us to be the advocates for those who cannot speak for themselves.
I believe we have a hard task, not even a hard task, but the pastors, we have a task ahead of us, because the Bible declares us that our people perish for lack of knowledge. So a lot of our pastors are not equipped to teach the congregants. Listen, don't go to a payday loan, you know, because now they have set it up now. If you don't pay your payday loan back, you will go to jail. So it's crazy, because a lot of people don't know. And when I don't know, I fall into the trap.
Right.
Ready to go?
Wow. I mean, I would agree with my sisters. I know I've said that every single time. Because y'all so smart and intelligent. You're just great. You're awesome. But I would agree with them that we're kind of like the church being reborn at the day of Pentecost. You know, that we will actually be the church, that we would take care of the widows and the orphans, that we would take care of those kids who have nothing to eat, that we would take care of the elderly in our congregation, and that we would not be fake with each other. You know, we would be fake in church. We're real fake. Let's be real. We can be fake, you know, but that we would really care for each other. A moment of transparency. I saw our deacons shouting today. I'm talking Baptist deacons. Baptist deacons were shouting at Second Calvary Baptist Church today. Deacons got saved today. You know, y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all all Baptists. You know, but I think that we won't take each other for granted. That's my prayer. I think that we won't take ministry opportunities for granted. We won't take our callings lightly. That we really need everybody in the body of Christ. That sound person is the reason why you've been getting, you know, church for the past 5 weeks at your home. You know, all of these pieces are going to be important.
I think what I'd like to see is a new normal. You know, not going back to church as usual, but like we had spoken to before, creative ministry, to be able to know how to minister intergenerationally. We have mixed generations in our churches, so how do we continue to meet each generation's needs? And then how do we go beyond the 4 walls of the church and be how the church used to be back in, you know, civil rights movement, where the church was the epicenter. And you came here for all of your knowledge and resources, and to get back to that as far as, you know, our foundation. But I don't want to go backwards. I don't want to be confined to the 4 walls of a church or in a building. I want the church to leave the building and go out into the communities and continue to go and make disciples, baptizing, teaching, as we have been commissioned to do by our Heavenly Father. And so I want to see a new normal to be able to generate after something as devastating as this, but still find the blessings after this as well.
I think that's what the world has been looking for us to do all along anyway. We've been so busy having church that we've forgotten who we really are supposed to be.
And we're supposed to lead. Listen,